Welcome to Green TV, the show dedicated to positive Green New Deal solutions and to the candidates that advocate for them. I am Gail Parker, your host for today. Green TV is about Green New Deal eco-jobs for the economy, positive solutions, eco-capitalism. Prices must tell the environmental truth. It's about the green industrial revolution, solar jobs, wind jobs, geothermal jobs, rail jobs, weatherization jobs, conservation jobs, efficiency jobs, lots of jobs, building green neighborhoods, walkable, bikeable, pedestrian and rail-friendly communities. It's about cutting taxpayer subsidies to zero for fossil fuel, big oil, big auto. Rail built anywhere in America benefits all of America. We have in our studio today Bill Redpath and Andy Bakker with the Libertarian Party. They were on with us last week, and we are very fortunate to have them back again this week. So, Bill, would you tell the viewers a little bit about the Libertarian Party and what your role is?
Well, the Libertarian Party is the third largest political party in the United States by many different measures. It is a combination of conservative positions on economic issues and liberal positions on social issues. But there is a core theme, and that is we want to reduce the use of government coercion in society. Consequently, we want to reduce government spending, reduce taxes, and have real respect for civil liberties. I've been a Libertarian Party member since 1984. I'm a former national chairman, served 2 terms, which is 4 years. I'm currently on the national committee as an at-large representative. I'm the immediate past chair of the Libertarian Party of Virginia and a 6-time candidate for public office.
Wonderful, that's quite a resume.
Well, thank you.
And Andy, tell us a little bit about your role in the party.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am currently the vice chair of the Libertarian Party of Virginia. In the past, I've run for office for the House of Delegates. I've served as a campaign manager and been around other campaigns in different capacities. So it's been a few years now, but glad to be here.
I see. Well, great. That's great too. And I'm seeing the face of Libertarian Party is getting younger and more young people involved?
That's, I hope so. Got to get younger people into the party or something bad's going to happen. So anyway, yeah, it's a good thing.
Right. And if folks are interested in joining the Libertarian Party, should they contact? And
LP.org, first of all, is the Libertarian Party national website. You can call the national office, first of all, 202-333-0008. That's on the website. Just remember LP.org. You can go in through there. Libertarian Party of Virginia is now LPVirginia.org.
This is correct. Yeah.
So those are ways you can contact us.
I see. Okay. And last week we talked a little bit about the issues and had a very spirited conversation with Bill and with Andy about rail and renewable energy. And this week we would like to concentrate a little bit more on the politics, the 2016 election and the 2020 election. So, Bill, what are your observations for the past election for the Libertarian Party?
Well, I wish we would have won. I'll tell you that much. But first of all, I think the Johnson-Weld ticket did very well compared to our past in terms of the number of votes they got. I can't recall that it's 4 comma something or other, but it was 4 and a fraction million votes, which in the past had we broken a million? Gary Johnson had broken a million last time around.
I think he did.
But in terms of percentage, the highest percentage that a Libertarian Party presidential candidate had ever earned in the popular vote was back in 1980, 1.06% by Ed Clark in the 1980 presidential election. Now, Gary Johnson got 0.99%, I believe, nationally in 2012, and I think the percentage is 3.28, 3.27, something like that for the popular vote. So our percentage was over 3 times the previous percentage. Now, we'll see whether that holds. There were unique circumstances. Let's hope they were unique in the 2016 presidential election that may affect our vote totals in the future.
I see. And what about the media coverage? Did you find that media was covering Gary quite a bit, or
more than was the case with any of our other presidential campaigns, including Gary Johnson's in 2012? So he got quite a bit more media coverage this time around than was the case, and hopefully that's going to continue. I actually think it will continue in the future, and particularly given this. I don't know what's going to happen with the Commission on Presidential Debates, but there was a lawsuit that we won along. I think the Green Party was involved in it as well, and there were several parties that were involved, including Level the Playing Field, which is Peter Ackerman's group. Okay. And anyway, there were several plaintiffs, and we won in U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C., and something was remanded back to the Federal Election Commission. So I hope this is a step in the right direction to loosen up the restrictions, to get more candidates. I think any candidate that has a theoretical chance of winning the Electoral College, which we can go on to, that's another subject we can get to, but right now, if they have a theoretical chance of winning the Electoral College, they ought to be in the presidential debate. It badly needs new voices, that's for sure.
For sure, yes. The Libertarian Party has been very active with lawsuits. Would you like to comment on that? Do you have any ongoing now that?
We do. I mean, we have, it seems like we always have ballot access litigation going on because of the ballot access laws in this nation. There's always something going on. For instance, in New York right now, we're suing the state of New York regarding their ban on out-of-state petitioners. They have a law that says that people from outside New York State cannot come into New York State and circulate petitions to put Libertarian Party candidates on the ballot in the state of New York. New York is one of, I think, 3 states that has such a law at this point. Either states have voluntarily done away with such laws, or we have sued, including in Virginia. We got that law overturned in Virginia in a lawsuit that the Libertarian Party of Virginia was involved in. So we've always got something going on because of how legislatures state legislatures and the national legislature, the Congress, try to stack the deck against the Libertarians and the Greens and the Constitutions, and you go right down the line.
Right.
So and Bill, do you know, is Sarvis v. Alcorn still active?
I think it is.
Okay, there's a ballot access case here in Virginia where basically what they were doing was they said the first 2 slots, it would be a random order, but it would be random Republican, Democrat, and then everybody else, no matter who it was. So we are challenging that case right now. But as soon as you knock one down, another one pops up. That's just kind of the political landscape that we're in right now.
And ballot access order does matter, by the way. There have been studies, believe me, it's kind of an arcane field, but there are political science professors who have studied this issue, and it is thought that ballot access position can affect vote totals.
I'm sure they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, what for Virginia? You know, the ballot access for the presidential candidates was lowered to 5,000, but the statewide offices for Virginia still at 10,000.
Right.
Are you all going to be lobbying to lower those, or
we have we haven't done enough of it, but we're going to do more. In fact, there was a bill this year that was defeated, unfortunately, that would have lowered the 10,000 to 5,000. Going back, you know, the thing is that so many of the improvements in ballot access come about because the 2 older parties are trying to, something happens and they've got to loosen things up for the older parties, and in the process, the third parties can benefit. 2 examples here in Virginia. First of all, the 5,000 came about because of the fiasco in the Republican Party presidential primary in 2012, where it used to be 10,000 valid signatures. And then there's a second requirement. It was 400 valid signatures in each of the 11 congressional districts. And all of the Republican candidates for the Republican nomination for president in 2012 had to meet that. Well, that's a pretty tough petition, and they learned firsthand how difficult it is because only 2 of them made it, Ron Paul and Mitt Romney, and all of the others, there were 6 or 7 or 11, a whole lot of them didn't make it.
Yeah.
And so then they say, okay, we're going to lower it to 5, and you know what, I'll give the Virginia legislature credit, at least they lowered it to 5,000 for everybody else, which they didn't have to do. They could have made it, but I'll give them credit for that. In that process, I remember speaking with Dick Black, who actually did, Senator Black, I will give him credit, he was the patron on the legislation to lower it from 10,000 to 5,000 for independent candidates and third-party candidates. I asked him to reduce it to 10, and the reason he gave me for not was that presidential candidates have to worry about other states than Virginia. And U.S. Senate and governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, they only have to worry about Virginia. So that was the reason. It was pretty much on party lines. It actually passed out of committee this year, the Senate Privileges and Elections Committee, and then it went up to the Senate and it passed initially, but then there was a move to revote, and they revoted, and a couple of Republicans voted no who didn't vote no earlier. It was pretty much on party lines. I think there was only 1 Republican who voted for the legislation, and I think there was only 1 Democrat who voted against. But things are moving in the right direction generally on ballot access, and we'll be back, and we intend to put in a better lobbying effort in the future. And I think ultimately, I tend to think that we will get lower ballot access restrictions for the other statewide offices in Virginia other than president.
And it would be nice, too, to have that 10% barrier lowered.
Oh, yes.
So that we could get ballot access.
Just to explain that. Oh, and there's the other thing I want to go back to in a moment, but the 10%, yes, you have to get 10% in either of the last 2 statewide elections. It used to be the last statewide election. That was the other story I was going to tell. But the Democratic Party wasn't paying attention in 1990 and didn't run somebody against John Warner for the U.S. Senate in 1990. And then they found out afterwards, oh, we're no longer a qualified party because we didn't get 10% of the vote for a statewide office in the last statewide election.
I did not know that.
Yes, that's how it happened, and so then it got expanded. Then I think there was even a special session of the legislature called because the Democratic Party got to get them back on the ballot. So they made it either of the last 2 statewide elections. So, and of course, that had to apply to everyone because it was a general election test. But that's how it came about, to be either of the last 2 statewide elections instead of the last statewide election.
I see.
And there's only 1 state that has a higher requirement than Virginia, and that's Alabama at 20%.
20%.
So it's, and you've got states around here. It's 1% for governor or president in Maryland. It's 1% for governor in West Virginia. It's 2% for governor or president in North Carolina. You've got states all around us where the vote test is much more. The median is about 2%. For a statewide race around the nation, but Virginia remains extraordinarily high and restrictive at 10%.
Yes. You're watching Green TV, the show dedicated to positive, green, New Deal solutions and the candidates that advocate for them. We have in our studio today Bill Redpath and Andy Bakker, both of the Libertarian Party. We have expanded our horizons in Green TV to include a couple of the other third parties that we would like to work more closely with. And that brings up another subject. Do you feel that the third parties could benefit by working closely together, and how do you foresee that they could work together?
I think on issues with which we agree, absolutely. Ballot access. I certainly want to see, I think the election system needs to be changed in this nation to proportional representation of some sort for legislatures and instant runoff voting or ranked choice voting for single winner elections. And by the way, a lot of people don't know this. I think one of the biggest things to happen in the 2016 general election was the passage of Question 5 in Maine for ranked choice voting to be adopted in Maine, not for president, but for governor, U.S. Senate, U.S. House, State House, and State Senate. And that's where people get a chance to rank their candidates this is my first choice, my second choice, as many or as few as they like, and then ultimately there is a vote transfer process if needed until a candidate actually gets a majority of the votes. It does away with the so-called wasted vote syndrome, even though I don't think there really is a wasted vote for anyone, any candidate. But a lot of people perceive that they're throwing their vote away if they don't vote for one of the older party candidates. And so that's a major development, I think, on the electoral scene in the United States. So I think that there are process issues. I think we can agree probably 100% on process issues that are very important, that affect ballots and election administration. And there are many substantive issues. I remember years ago, I read the Green Party platform, and I didn't agree with all of it. I agreed, I would say, with about 40% of the Green Party platform. And but there are certainly issues that I think Greens and Libertarians absolutely agree on, and on those issues I think we can certainly work together and should.
Yeah, absolutely. I think ballot access and electoral reform are chief among those. But I've been very impressed in Virginia that the third parties seem to have a good relationship with each other, and there is a certain camaraderie there. And I know that especially the Independent Greens and the Libertarians have worked together for a while. We managed to host a debate for candidates for U.S. Congress this past year, jointly hosted with the Libertarian Party and the Green Party. So there are avenues there. I think we jointly hosted a criminal justice reform event, which is an issue where we come together.
Absolutely.
So the opportunity is there. And one of the things that everyone wants is to say to voters, look, you have another choice. You're not stuck in this box. Whichever way you go, you're not stuck right here.
And I think our role is so important because, to be honest, I think Virginia politics are kind of stagnant in Virginia, I think. I mean, and I'll give you an example. I asked Robert Sarvis after the governor campaign in 2013, I said to him, regardless of everybody's position on the issue, I said, during the entire campaign for governor, did the subject of legalization of gambling ever come up during the governor campaign? He said no, except for one person who came up to him and asked him a question privately, one-on-one, about the issue. And how could that not be addressed with National Harbor now and Charlestown? And I mean, it's an issue. And initiatives and referenda, that never comes up, hardly, unless a minor party candidate brings it up or an independent candidate brings it up. So there are all sorts of things. There are so many issues that if there isn't a third party candidate or an independent candidate in there, the issues aren't even going to be brought up.
Right. We can all agree on that. And we have a camaraderie because we know how difficult it is to get on the ballot in Virginia for us, for the third parties and independent candidates. Well, looking forward to 2020 for the Libertarian Party. Have you all started looking forward to 2020? What do you foresee for the Libertarian Party in 2020?
My crystal ball's at the repair shop. I mean, Andy, you left your turban at home, but go ahead and prognosticate.
Oh, well, it's hard, and a lot of us are very tired. It was a very emotional, draining campaign for all parties last year. And in Virginia, we have elections every single year. But, there are a handful of people who have thrown their hat in the ring. Very few of whom I would expect your audience to recognize. Larry Sharp was a guy who ran for vice president last year and lost in convention. Austin Peterson's a guy who ran for president and lost in convention last year. It's a very long time to 2020, though, and there's a lot of things that can happen. It'll be interesting to watch some Libertarian candidates in 2018 because if somebody's able to put together a really good campaign, if they're able to really get their name out there, that's a big leg up going into the 2020 convention. So we're just going to have to wait and see.
I see. Well, one of the criticisms of the Libertarian Party is that it's male-dominated.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up, Gail, because I'm going to plagiarize someone, and I'll credit him, Matt Welsh from Reason Magazine. So I saw him field this question once, and I was paying attention, so I'll steal his answer.
Okay.
And that is that he covered Ralph Nader speaking at Madison Square Garden. I mean, I can't imagine what a rush it would be to speak at Madison Square Garden and the place is sold out. I mean, I'd be happy if people came in for free, but he charged, it wasn't that much, it was $10 a head or something like that. But he said, you know what? He said, you looked at that crowd, it was heavily male. It was, he says, if you looked around Madison Square Garden that night, if you didn't know better, the crowd looked very much like the people at a Libertarian Party convention. And so I think that you're right, but I'm not sure that it's all that much different than you see in at least other minor party politics. But we need more women. I'll grant you that.
All right, all right. Now, I personally feel that the way that we get a female president, and I do believe that our country does need to have a female president. The way we get them is to have a female candidate for president from all of the parties and the independents. What are the prospects that you will have a female candidate for president? Have you got somebody out there that that's coming along for that?
You know, I certainly haven't heard of anyone throw their hat in the ring yet. We had one female candidate for vice president last year. So we'll see. You know, the Libertarian Party is a part of history here that the first woman to ever receive an electoral vote was Toni Nathan in 72. Also the first Jewish person to receive an electoral vote. So that's part of our history. You know, certainly we can do a lot more to bring in women to our party. And I hope that we can have a candidate in 2020. That would be great.
That would be great too, yes. Well, you have an opportunity to speak to the National Capital Region. What would you like for your viewers to know about the Libertarian Party? This is an opportunity to address at least 1 million people out there, and maybe more.
Well, I mean, it was a great year for the Libertarian Party in 2016, and you know, I gave up on the two older parties back in the early 1980s, because I just didn't feel that either the Democrats or the Republicans represented me. And I've never regretted being a part of the Libertarian Party in any way. I came to think, frankly, that Ronald Reagan was not serious about cutting the size of government. I was very frustrated with his drug war, which is something Greens and Libertarians certainly agree on. And I just came to think, nobody really represents me in the two major parties. Once in a while, there is a Republican who I think really speaks the truth from my perspective, but it's pretty darn rare. And I particularly am disenchanted with Donald Trump being the Republican nominee and now the President of the United States. And the Republican Party used to talk a good limited government game, and it doesn't even do that anymore. And so Richard Winger, editor of Ballot Access News, has said that if you have only two political parties, you have repression. And we do have political repression. It's not as bad as in other nations, and we are relatively free in this society, but there is political repression through ballot access laws. The world is simply too complicated. Herding people into one of two big tents simply does not work anymore. There are too many issues that divide people. And you're always going to have turbulence in the two older parties in the system until we change the voting system that allows more than two parties to truly flourish.
I agree so very much on that. Well, I've kind of run out of questions here for you guys. Any topics that you all would like to bring up?
Andy, what would you like to talk about?
Well, You know, we're getting ready for the 2017 election season.
Absolutely.
It's a big one. And there have been some good bills and some bad bills coming out of the State House, but we are getting ready to run a fleet of House delegate candidates. We're hoping to get to double digits. We're hoping to have a candidate for governor or for lieutenant governor. So I'm not sure where we go from there, but the message from us is that the Libertarian Party is sticking around. We're here. We're growing. We're going to continue to grow, and we will get that message of limited government, of shrinking government, not just shrinking the growth of government, in this 2017 election cycle.
Well, I was going to say that we definitely are looking for candidates. People should contact the Libertarian Party national office. LP.org phone number is on the website as well. But we're looking for people, obviously, to join the Libertarian Party and become candidates. And we need more political competition, particularly in Virginia. We have 100 single-member districts for the Virginia House of Delegates. 2 years ago, in 2015, 62 of them had only one candidate on the ballot, not one challenger. 62 of them had only one candidate. And the press totally ignores that. They'll talk about, oh, we got a hot race over here. Oh, quite a barn burner over here in this district, that district. But the big story never seems to be reported, and that is the total lack of political competition. By the way, for the state Senate, 20 out of 40 districts in 2015, only one candidate on the ballot. So at the very least, run it's a fulfilling experience, and you're doing the political, the body politic, I want to say, in the United States and Virginia, a great service by doing so. So we'd ask people to join us and get involved.
Yes, it's an eye-opening experience as well.
That's for sure.
Well, folks, that's about all the time we have today. Thank you both very much for joining us on Green TV. And for you folks out there, please join us again next time for Green TV.